Guess how many American slave traders were ever executed for their crimes? The answer is 1. Let's talk about that hapless dude, this unfortunate white guy from Maine named Nathaniel Gordon. Look, the US didn't ship or buy the majority of African slaves. European ships transported the bulk of the 11.5 million enslaved people to the West, and the US only purchased about 2% of this for domestic use. But American ships, they were active, and early Northeastern families were central to the trade. These included the founders of Brown University and some very prominent Rhode Island families like the DeWolfs. Oftentimes, they ran integrated operations and had distilleries in the Northeast that sold a crap ton of rum to colonists, but also transported this rum to West Africa. Rum was a currency for purchasing people. But American ships were often small and had the last pick. They could languish for weeks on the coast of West Africa, going from port to port till they could fill their hulls. Enter the last fateful trip of Captain Nathaniel Gordon, whose ship, called the Erie, was floating around the mouth of the Congo River when it was intercepted by the U.S. Navy sloop of war called the Mohican. The Navy had the power to enforce the transatlantic slave ban since Jefferson signed it in 1807, but it was deliberately undermined and underfunded because northern and southern powers lobbied against enforcement, and the trade continued almost unabated. But when the Civil War started, President Lincoln finally had the moral authority. Plus, each slave ship would actually be fueling the economy of the Confederacy. So when the Mohican comes upon the Erie, it was filled with 897 starving, desperate people, and it was helmed by this unfortunate man named Nathaniel Gordon. The Navy brings him back to New York City, where he was imprisoned and prosecuted by a passionate U.S. attorney appointed by Lincoln. The people captured weren't returned to the Congo, but Liberia, which was like a vassal refugee state of sorts, and likely they became indentured servants there. But back in New York City, no one expected anything of the indictment. After all, New York City was a smuggling capital. It launched 2 slave ships a month to fuel the illegal trafficking trade, not to mention a banking and legal system designed to obfuscate and conceal this industry. So when Lincoln chooses to make an example of Gordon, thousands of New Yorkers sign a petition begging for clemency. But Lincoln replies, "I believe I am kindly enough in nature and can be moved to pity and to pardon the perpetrator of almost the worst crime that the mind of man can conceive or the arm of man can execute. But any man who for paltry gain and stimulated only by avarice can rob Africa of her children to sell into interminable bondage, I will never pardon." So Gordon, he was executed on the gallows in New York City, February 21, 1862, the only American ever executed for the crime of trafficking people.